public to vote, nay on the bonding issue. The last, I spoke with the architect, the project, because of increase in materials and whatnot, went from approximately 1.2, 2.1, 2.2 to roughly 2.9. However, as Councilman Heckler just mentioned to me, we are seeing material prices come down, so I'll have updated numbers on that end.
Yeah, but then I also mentioned that we need to see the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We can't vote on something we don't know what's about.
Understood. So I'll go right to the resolutions. Be it resolved to accept minutes for meetings held on June 18th, June 8th, and June 14th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to accept the town clerk's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize payments of ordered adoptions in the amount of $192,404.45.
Your turn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I didn't know we had a pecking order.
I just figured, yeah.
Whose turn is the next one? Be it resolved to authorize transfers for transfer sheets.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that in accordance with Section 71 Civil Service Law, the employment of Richard Quick is terminated effective June 4th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the New York City DEP has approved the applying of the balance of the Good Neighbor Fund / the watershed capital. Actually, I should change that to .004 to the Como addition and renovation project. Therefore, be it resolved to transfer the remaining balance of the watershed capital .004, approximately $18,446 to the Como buildings capital.
Second.
And just to add number .084. Okay, any discussion?
So this money was originally appropriated for what?
This money was a funding grant that from the watershed. This is probably going back to the early 2000s. The bulk of the money was used for the salt shed over on West August Road. It hasn't been touched since. It can only be used for certain projects where you have to get permission from the watershed. They did approve that this would be a sufficient capital project. So, and keep in mind, you asked me that, you know, we have money in the capital for the Como project. If the public decides not to support the project, I mean, ultimately, I hope that some future board comes up with another solution, that money would be used for that. So, it doesn't give us the right to spend it, it only puts it in there for that purpose.
Do we need permission from them?
Sorry?
Do we need permission from them?
Yes, from the watershed, yes, we got that. They approved it, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think I sent the email a while back, but if not, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Thomas Stoltler is the gentleman. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Richard, are you voting on that one? Yes. Okay.
Be it resolved to schedule a public hearing for the purpose of soliciting public comment on the proposed local law number 1 of the year 2021, a local law to establish a fill and grading law. Such public hearing to be held in a meeting at the Woodstock Town Board scheduled for July 13th, 2021 at 7:15 p.m. in the town offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York. And be it further resolved, Town Board authorized the town clerk to place the following notice in the official town paper. At a town board meeting held on June 22nd, 2021, the town board resolved to schedule a public hearing for local law number 1 of 2021, fill and grading law for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 at 7:15 p.m. at the town offices.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? You've all seen the latest copy.
I'm a little confused on This is a public hearing for this. We have the public hearing still open on the moratorium. Would this be our first, no, it's our second meeting in July?
This is first.
First.
Well, we'll have both, two public hearings in one meeting. You want to put this off to the second?
No, I don't, it's been floating around for so long, let's get it done. But I'm just trying to figure out how to handle it.
The 20th is the second meeting. Speak now, forever hold your peace. I'll amend the resolution.
Well, I have a question though. So, do you need to publicize the second part of the public hearing for the moratorium?
Depends on if we change it or not.
I see, okay. So my thought being, since we're not talking about that at all here, we'll definitely do the fill law at our next meeting, but it's possible if we had to give notice, then we might be doing the moratorium at a later time if we had to give 2 weeks' notice.
Well, if we decide we're changing, adding to the moratorium, then I would suggest we call for a quick special meeting to authorize the public.
To start the clock,
Right.
gotcha,
To authorize the town clerk to publish for the 13th.
okay.
I anticipate that by the 13th, we'll be ready to reopen the public hearing on the moratorium law. I would like to.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the belief is, Richard, that the fill law probably would not be a lengthy public hearing.
No, I just,
So we're
I'm just trying to
probably
figure out the
can fit them both
schedule.
in this
I don't want to.
So both are gonna be on the 13th, is that what you're saying? Potentially.
Potentially.
Potentially, but again, I picked it because it was the first date. If we want to move it to the 20th.
No, if we can do both.
Yeah, no, let's do
Fine
it.
with me.
It could be a little bit of a long
I just
meeting.
didn't want to see the moratorium get pushed further down the road. That's
Right,
what we decided.
I would call for both of them.
Are you planning to change the moratorium? Is that a thought?
And we're waiting for feedback from the attorney.
Okay,
So
because then you would have to have a special meeting if you want to do it on the 13th.
if we're gonna
Because
change.
our paper only comes out every Wednesday.
Right.
But we could do that by Zoom, huh?
Yeah, we could have a quick Zoom meeting. or-
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
To schedule,
Right,
not
I'm
to
assuming.
have to have the moratorium, but to schedule the moratorium.
Right.
The
Correct.
governor hasn't canceled Zoom.
If the governor hasn't, and he hasn't yet.
And we were also waiting to hear from the county, right, not just the attorney?
Yes, from the county as well. Okay, so, go ahead.
If we change something in the moratorium law, it's got to go back to the county? I'm not sure why the county has it right now since we didn't pass it.
The county has to weigh
I know they have
in
to weigh in on it,
before we pass it.
but what if we make changes?
And I will defer to the attorney on how substantial a change it would be. I don't have an answer to that. And since this is potentially a litigious law, I would strongly rely on the attorney to make a decision. Okay, so we're good leaving it for the 13th, Karen?
Yes.
All, do I have a second for that?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And so I want to thank Councilwoman Ricky for this next resolution in that, we had some questions about ethics law and who can be on the ethics board and what our ethics law says. So what we came down to, Lynn Severick, we appointed to the ethics board some time ago. There was concern that there was at least an appearance that the clerk couldn't serve on the board. Ultimately, in talking with Paul, and Laura was helpful in this, we agreed that if the clerk were removed from the ethics law altogether, that would take away any perception of an issue. I suggested that everything that the clerk handles could be handled by the supervisor's office. We already deal with personnel, we already deal with confidentiality, we're handling the hirings out of our office, we handle the appointments out of our office. I talked to both my staff, and they're both comfortable that this is not an undue burden. We're sending out paychecks to all the employees. And Jackie was fine with giving up that task. So I'll offer this resolution, be it resolved, the Woodstock Town Board temporarily suspend the duties of the town clerk as spelled out in the Ethics Law, Chapter 781, with regard to the processing of ethics disclosures. Be it further resolved, these duties will temporarily be assumed by the supervisor's office. Be it further resolved, these duties and responsibilities regarding the handling of ethics disclosures, including the distribution, receiving, and filing of disclosures, will be administered with full confidentiality by the supervisor's office. And be it further resolved, the Woodstock Town Board will work with the Ethics Board to amend the Ethics Law, Chapter 71, to make these changes permanent.
Second.
Any questions? So I did talk to the chair, that he's comfortable that this resolves any issues.
I emailed Paul too, and he was fine. But when you look at changing the permanent change, Kimball's not here. The Freeman ran an article a few weeks back that the city of Kingston is changing their law.
We can amend it anyway.
And the question came up, I don't know if you saw this, the question came up, does it really have to be a town employee?
We can amend
They
that.
seem to be, well, I thought the implication before was that the state mandated a town employee. So it appears it doesn't have to be a town employee.
The only thing I would,
I'm not saying I'm for or against, I'm just saying you might want to look at it.
the only thing I would say, Richard, is cities and towns are governed by different law. So we follow a general municipal law. The city doesn't, there's a different,
I would just make sure we're clear on it.
and there was another issue. I mean, I've gone back and forth with the ethics board talking about what, there are certain boards that probably don't need to be filling out these disclosure forms. And it's less paperwork, we're chasing less people and whatnot. So I think that's another amendment. We could even list specifically what boards are expected to fill it out and what boards are not. But what I would do in my email to Paul is that if this passed tonight, I would request that the ethics board start to look at amendments, the amendments to make this permanent and any other amendments we feel need to be made. So, you and I are in agreement again.
You better wrap this up quick.
All in favor? Aye.
But I do want to make
Bill,
Yeah,
is Ashley physically in the office? Because I'll need to go over details with her.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and
She's
Thursdays.
out of the office, but available by phone Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Okay, in the office Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah, it'd probably be better to come into the office because then the four of us can sit together. Because Pam will have some part in this as well.
Oh,
Pam sends out a lot, the paychecks and whatnot, and prepares employment packets, which would include the disclosure form for new employees. So it wouldn't hurt for all of us to be on the same page.
okay.
And I did, before we proceed, I wanted to say my own thank you to the ethics board and also the town clerk's office, because when we figured this out, there was some questions and some concern, and everybody kind of went with the flow. And I have to say, the ethics board was very ethical, because as they look at the ethics law and look at not only what the word said, but the intent of the law, the ethics board stood up and said, hey, we believe that the intent of the law says that there is a conflict of interest, and I really appreciate the ethics law standing up for what they believed is right. I appreciate the town clerk's office for, we all know the town clerk's office, well, I know for sure, that they're great. So to me, there was no true issue, but if there's a perception of an issue, that is a problem as well, if there's a perception. So in any event, I think the clerk's office is great, but I really appreciate everybody pulling together, and I think we've got a better solution that we're looking at for the future. I think it's just gonna work out better for various reasons. So I want to thank everybody for their patience as we worked our way through this.
And Jackie, I feel really good about this because your hand is the first to go up every time there's a task that needs to be taken care of. You guys,
That's just a twitch.
whatever it is, I've used it to my
How long
advantage.
until you're no longer on the board?
So,
6 months, but who's counting?
I think Richard said 12 meetings after tonight, so definitely Lauren and Richard are not, have no concept of.
Oh, no, we have all those budget hearings. We're gonna make sure they have to attend every one of them.
long.
They're gonna be weekly
It's
on
gonna
the
be a
way out, right?
long bunch of meetings for you, Phil.
Anyway, I feel really good about taking a little something off your plate.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your hard work.
Thanks.
We're done.
Wow. Any public heard?
Yeah? Jackie?
Where are they? They're here somewhere. Weston Wheelock, minutes, please.
You're all familiar with this.
You're not, no? Son of a bitch. What's it say?
No. Time's up.
Right. Jeremy interrupted me one time, and then I got lost my track, and then he said, "Time's up." There we are.
What's this?
He was slick.
Oh, sure, thank you.
Okay, this addresses the proposal on the table. My proposal, draft of proposal, okay.
Oh, that's all.
5G,
Okay,
the
okay.
Internet of Things, portends a dystopian future of mini cells, antennas, repeaters crisscrossing our neighborhoods, spewing killing radiation in the service of an Orwellian 24/7 Big Brother society. Today, the town of Woodstock is facing the Crown Castle application requesting a special use permit to bring 5G into our midst. The telecom industry, with its army of lobbyists and splashy ads, and the bought and paid for FCC would have us believe that 5G is inevitable. I am here to say that it is not. I envision tonight as a moment in time where a group of citizens working with their town government dared to vote on a resolution that said no to 5G in Woodstock. Even if this is symbolic, my hope is that people will look back on this moment where the most famous small town in the world took a stand against technology running amok and mark this as a turning point towards sanity. Thank you.
Rob Kilper.
I have 3 copies for the board, and I can give you my 4th copy after speaking.
You give me one copy, I'll make sure that the, I can just read.
Right. I'm also discussing the Crown Castle proposal application. The first graph is just from New York Times. It's the electromagnetic spectrum. The proposed frequencies of the antennas I've written to the right side are within the microwave section of the spectrum, so the antennas will be emitting microwaves. Infrared is above the microwaves, and ionizing is above visible light. And ionizing is the extremely dangerous electromagnetic radiation where people wear badges and such. So the second page is just the taken from the actual application, page 39. So with those new antennas, these will be microwaves that are introduced. That's it.
Rex Funk.
Hello. Good. So I just want to say also about the Crown Castle application. I think it's imperative that this Crown Castle application is rejected. 5G should not be allowed in Woodstock. We really don't need it at all. Putting 5G antennas on our tower will not improve reception in Lake Hill and Willow and places like that. I'm told that you, Bill, you said that you would call a special meeting if Crown Castle does not grant the extension that the planning board requested. But I think that the resolution should be rejected anyway. So this is a resolution that myself, Weston, Steve, and Raji have presented to you. And yeah, so I think it should be approved either way. There's no reason for 5G to be allowed here in Woodstock. We don't want cell towers in the middle of our town with new dangerous frequencies. And I also want to say that what has happened with this application has revealed a breakdown in whatever process is lacking or should be in the town to deal with this type of application with a 60-day shot clock, where it has to be a decision has to be made within 60 days. So I think it's really important that there's a better system put together, and I suggest it's a telecommunication committee active that responds to it immediately, not here we are at the 11th hour, and stop it. Or at least to have the right to say whether or not we want it.
Thank you, Rex.
Steve Romine?
Hi, everybody. Just want to say a few things. First of all, regarding myself being a conflict of interest with the town, because I have hired Andrew Campanelli, which is what the planning board said. That is not the case. My interest is in the well-being of the town, and I couldn't possibly be in a conflict of interest with the town by having Andrew Campanelli analyze the application, number one. Number two, Rex, the board is correct. There is a breakdown in the process of the application. This application, the only reason we know about it is because I filed a FOIL request, and then that got the ball rolling. And if that wouldn't happen, who knows when they would have decided to look at it. This is not good. The other thing, another small points I want to make is that the antennas, people have this idea that, well, we went from 3G, and 4G replaced 3G, and 5G replaced 4G. That's not the case. There's 3G antennas up there. They put out a certain amount of effective radiated power, which about 5,000 watts. The 4G puts out about 5,000 watts also. The 5G puts out about 1,350. So every time they add a generation, they're adding more radiation into our community. We don't need more radiation. You don't need very much radiation to have basic cell phone service, okay? And so every time we add new technologies, we're just adding more radiation, unnecessary radiation into our community, so certain people can play games with their apps on their cell phones and so forth. Basic service that we're all concerned about, safety, being able to make the call, does not require 5G. So that's my say, and I hope you pass the resolution one way or the other. It's so important. It would be groundbreaking if we could do that as a town, and we'd be all on the same page.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve, could I just ask you a question? So at the last board meeting, we talked about Andrew Campanelli, right? There was going to be a private donor that was going to reach out to him and ask him to look at our laws. Is there, and I understand I talked to Weston, I didn't have a chance to talk to you because I've been out of town, but left your voicemail. We talked to Weston, and just want to understand, is Andrew able to consult with us, or is he available? Because I
Yes.
heard from Weston he wasn't available this week.
This week he had a trial.
Okay.
And one thing, as you bring that up about Andrew Campanelli, I just want to say,
It was in Talk of Towns this week, or this month's issue that goes out across New York State talking about this very issue and the need for local zoning codes to.
I just want to say that Andrew Campanelli, contradicting what Connor White, who I like, Connor White is a friend of mine, I can say it in the press, but he said, oh, we shouldn't hire to the planning board Andrew Campanelli because he might get us in trouble. Well, let me just assure the town, there is no record of any towns getting into trouble with Andrew Campanelli. As a matter of fact, he gets them out of trouble. So he is like the best.
Yeah, I thought today really getting this issue today and having this stand there and
Yeah,
this whole
sure.
issue.
He's top ranking. Not just because I said it, he was top ranking.
I thought, because we had talked last meeting, Steve, that I guess you said you got a trial tonight or something.
This, for the whole week, I talked to him after I talked to
bring
you.
him here, talk to the board. So I would still push for that.
Push for him to talk to the board?
I think, and I know, the technology's getting so far out there anymore. Those of us who thought we had an understanding of it, it's getting beyond us now. And, you got acronyms, you got numbers, you got,
Right.
who knows what the heck they mean anymore. I would like some clarification on how to read some of this stuff. Anybody, they can sue us if they want. Anybody can sue anybody these days, communication company. So that's why I'd like to vet things a little bit more, make sure we're on solid ground before getting too far. And there's also, I know in the SEC rulings, well, I understand Biden is now trying to appoint somebody, a new chair, that you cannot stop a communication company on the basis of health impact. I'd like to know how Andrew can get us around that. I'm not agreeing with the FCC, I'm just saying.
I just want to answer the question, and that
A
is,
couple more things. I also think we need to be smart too, and I've said this before, that there are things in our zoning law that we can do, whether it's size, color, placement, all those things, that we can direct into our zoning law, which would certainly cause problems for any communication trying to do small cell deployment throughout the town. And I think that's another area we need to look at as well.
Well, that, and that,
It's
Laura's
already-
committee has put before the planning board.
Yeah, that's the telecommunications law that I brought to this
I
board,
know,
and then
I
it went to
know.
the planning board. And they have just today, Bill sent me something, I haven't reviewed it yet, but he just sent it to me today, their response. So that'll go through a public hearing, it's still going through the process, so there's still time
Yeah.
to grab it and
Well,
make updates.
I appreciate what, I guess, Ed and Dave.
Yeah.
And I talked to Ed about it, I discussed it with him. The thing was, that came out a while ago, and we should really be moving on it.
Well, and we do want to do that. And so part of what, and so we had heard, well, Steve had Andrew Campanelli come and give a presentation. Some of us from the zoning revision committee went to that presentation. Others of the committee reviewed the recording of the presentation. And so Ed did, and Andrew Campanelli had provided a report, and Ed did part of his building of the telecommunications law that he had, he did the bulk of the work to draft. He had read Campanelli's report and tweaked what he has based on what he saw. So, and again, just what was said is apparently you can't stop a company for health reasons, but you can put in your own zoning things about where can it be, how close can it be to a building, and so that's what Ed, when he drafted that law, that was reviewed by the whole zoning revision committee, is putting in there the different whys and wherefores, and hopefully if you put enough whys and wherefores in, the company says, oh, this town's too difficult, I'll go someplace else. So that's, within what the law allows is what Ed did, that the zoning revision committee is supporting.
But there's also, I guess what I'm asking, is there a way we can zero in on those possibilities? First, I think Ed's report was 42 pages. I'm waiting for the
Well, the
movie.
telecommunications
I'm
law.
waiting for the movie to come out.
Well, sure.
So I'm wondering if there's a
But it
way.
might take 42 pages. I mean, that's the same.
Well, there's a lot in there that doesn't go direct, you know what I'm saying?
Well-
I'm saying, is there a way we can concentrate first on we can do it as a whole, but is there a way we can concentrate on bringing those other things forward, such as size, color, placement, things like that?
Well, it's in there. So if you look at the law that Ed drafted, I think it was 42 pages, but I did reduce the font of it because it was like really big, and it wound up being more like, I think, 28 pages or thereabouts. So of the 28 pages, about half of it was large tower. He didn't really change much for the large tower. He added a preface to it, didn't change a lot for large tower. So of the 28 or whatever pages, half of it was large tower that didn't have a lot of change. So half of it, so now we're down to like 14 pages, that was the brand new stuff, because the small tower stuff was totally brand new.
That's the stuff I'm asking, can we bring that forward?
Well, I mean, it's still in there, and I can resend it to you.
No, I got it, I read it. Yep.
Right, okay. So if you have specifics of, this page, this paragraph, can you do this or that? We're open because it's been to the planning board, it hasn't been beyond yet, it hasn't been to the county yet. So there's still time to do more tweaks, and I'd love your input.
should I ask
So-
Andrew to meet with you guys?
For the 20th, and we'll get him that law and we can.
20th?
Yeah, July 20th.
That's a town board meeting?
Yeah.
July 20th?
Yeah.
So would you like him here, or are you talking about a Zoom meeting?
No, here. Well, is it easier to do?
Well, I'll see what
See,
you
I
can
don't
do.
know- I
It's more
don't-
expensive to get him here,
I don't
a
know,
lot more.
I don't know what the governor's gonna be doing with regard to Zoom meetings.
Oh, okay.
Well, the thing
Now,
is,
we two members could meet with him by Zoom. We could do that sooner.
Are we totally in person though? I mean, we're not gonna have like a meeting on the 20th by Zoom, because I thought we were totally in person now.
That's what we're talking about. So I don't know what the governor's gonna,
But even if we wanted to Zoom, I mean, would we even, if the governor allows us to do a Zoom meeting on the 20th, you're saying we might do a Zoom meeting?
No, just with him being
No,
on Zoom,
yeah.
I don't think.
Well,
I'm not
that's easier
saying-
said than done, because we have an itty bitty TV over there, I don't see the big screen anymore. How would we have him present to us on Zoom? Because we need a big screen, so
I think it would be talk.
Excuse me?
I'm thinking verbal.
it would be tough.
You don't need a big screen, if everybody can see
Okay.
it.
Everybody has a phone.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanna make
So
sure.
what
we're
do
on
you
the
do?
same-
I kind of agree with Lori, I would go aim for, where does he live, Steve?
Merrick, Long Island.
So it's a hike.
No, it's a high.
But if we wait to the 20th, isn't our deadline to challenge this July 6th?
Yeah.
Or July 5th?
July 4th?
Or July
It's
4th.
the 4th is a
Well,
Sunday.
the belief was the planning board put their concerns and sent them to the company, and the belief is that that stops the clock. Because they asked for more information.
Also, again, I would remind, I've told many people, while there is a shot clock, we do have the luxury of being the tower owner. And until the planning board is satisfied with the application, the town board's not gonna sign any lease.
Right.
So they can't go up there. I can guarantee, we did this last year when there was some concern, or 2 years ago, I forget when, there was an application and they started this crap about the shot clock, and I said, I don't care, we're not signing it until the planning board. And the planning board went through the full process, it went over the time period, and, ultimately, it was all 4G, there was no issue, and it got approved.
Let me just say something about that, and that is that at the meeting with the planning board, I sent everybody the video, I don't know if everybody watched it, but they said, then they said in their application, they invoked Federal Law 6409, and he brought it up again at the meeting. He said, didn't you? He said, CC, the Crown Castle guy said, didn't you guys read the application? And then he said, Federal Law 6409? He said, but I'm not gonna go into you with that right now. That's what he said.
They
So,
can
and then
talk
I-
about that all day long.
And then I sent you the paragraph on where he said, our goal is to get this done earlier than the deadline.
Mhm.
So I'm
Their
thinking,
goal and our goal is not the
I
same
hope
thing.
not. Yeah, I hope not.
It's not. And again, yes, there's a shot clock, legally, they may have to pass it, but until we're satisfied that it's not a problem, we don't have to let them up on our tower.
So if we don't get an extension Friday, is the town board gonna pull a special meeting and vote on the resolution?
If the town, I don't know, the resolution is unenforceable, but if the board wants to meet and pass it, that's fine.
The meeting, the first meeting we should have, and I don't care how early it is, could be as early as possible, is with Andrew.
So then, do you want to have a special meeting next week?
It's fine with me.
I would like to.
Okay. See what day he can meet next week.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
then even if we can't for some reason
Yeah,
have a
Zoom,
full
right?
board, I mean, we can
No,
still have 2 of us.
Is that Zoom?
You want to do Zoom?
Well, we could do that Zoom, it's not one of these meetings, right? We could do that Zoom.
A special meeting.
A special meeting with Andrew, is that okay?
Yes, we public.
I mean, trying.
Well, all our Zoom meetings.
Public, but I mean, trying to get it from Long Island, I can understand the
Oh,
issue
now
there,
you
it's
remember
it's a 4-hour drive.
What we're up
So
to.
besides the time, it's very
July fifth?
expensive.
With the
I
governors?
don't,
But
but my thought
we do
is
it if
that
we have
if you were going to have an executive session.
No, wouldn't be executive.
No, well, if you're talking with an attorney,
It's true.
Shaky.
But it's not about a lawsuit.
It's not about, because it's about.
that doesn't have to be a
avoiding-
lawsuit, doesn't have to be a lawsuit. Why don't you look at that tomorrow and then decide?
Yeah,
Can
let's
I tell you
talk,
something
let's
about
talk
that?
tomorrow.
Because I dealt with this with the Ontario Board of Education, that they violated the executive session law, because they went into executive session because somebody mentioned casually, well, maybe we'll have to file a lawsuit. So they went into executive session, and I spoke with the top lawyer in New York City, New York State, and he said, only if they're discussing strategy of a lawsuit do they go and give authority to
Not sure
executive
about that.
session.
The town has a little bit more wiggle
Yeah.
room, but you
Yeah,
know
I'm
what,
not
the
sure
honest
about
truth
that.
is, he's not our attorney, because you're
Right.
paying him.
Right.
So it would have to be an open meeting.
Okay.
And, but I believe the governor has decreed until at least July 5th. Zoom. So we could do it next
Well,
week.
You can't, I don't,
Well, tell him the end of the week, because
I
he's
don't
in
think you
trial.
wanna get, you're talking total Zoom, not a hybrid.
Yeah, total.
I'm talking total Zoom.
Yeah.
I think hybrids don't work that
Hybrids
well.
don't work at all.
Okay.
I think,
Well, it sets up if we.
I
have
think
the
one
capability.
person on Zoom and everybody else here would
Yeah.
probably be okay, but it's not the ideal situation.
It's
No,
not
because
yet.
then everybody, Laura talks, then Reggie talks, and you gotta move the
That can't
computer
hear.
around, or they can't hear. The one you did with the CCD and West Walker didn't work at all.
Right.
And I heard Aniora had a problem with their trying to do a hybrid, so.
Right.
that-
But again, it would only be one person
Yeah, but
and
it's
multiple.
still-
Yeah, but if we're all Zoom, so if we're agreeing that next week we're gonna have an all Zoom meeting with Andrew Campanelli, I think that's the great solution. Just let me know what day, what time.
Okay.
I'll make
Can
it-
be during the day, can be at night.
As soon as I can get in touch with him, because he's unavailable, because he's in a trial all week this week.
Okay.
Does he have a secretary you can kind of
I
get
can
word to him?
speak to a secretary and see if she can get.
Message him and
find
see
out
what's-
the scheduling, but the trial, it's unknowable, could be
How long
early,
it is.
How long,
and
right.
earlier or later.
We'll talk tomorrow.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
So if you're gonna use a Zoom meeting, whoever's speaking has the microphone on, everybody else has it off.
That's right.
Because there's just gonna be
Yeah,
too much
we-
noise.
Oh, yeah.
We
It
do-
would be-
we
it
do
would be
Zoom all the time.
controlled. It would be muted and then let speak. Raji?
Okay, I want to talk about this issue as well. I'd like to bring some clarification to everyone on the board about what's happened in the past, because I've heard a lot of things misquoted, and it's really a shame. There's some people that came to the initial meeting that we set up. It wasn't just Steve, there's a number of people behind this. We set up a Zoom meeting with Andrew Campanelli. We paid for that meeting, it was $350 for him for an hour. Some people on the board were there, some people on the planning board were there. Not everyone from the planning board and the town board were there. The people that attended, Andrew meticulously answered all the questions that were asked by everyone on the planning board, everyone on the town board, addressed all their concerns, including people's concerns about the town being sued. He went over that and explained why it cannot happen in detail, and yet there's still people saying that's a possibility, as Connor Lake did on the last planning board meeting. He made some crack comment about Andrew Campanelli. That's the first thing that happened. From that meeting, the town board and the planning board agreed that Andrew Campanelli, as long as we paid for it, could come up with a document that he's used repeatedly as a template for many, many, many towns and cities. If you look at his website, he's been successful using the same template. Maybe not to stop 5G, but at least to give the town more power in many different ways. So every one of you who went to that meeting and the planning board attendees agreed, yes, we want you to come up with this document. So he worked on it, gave it to the town board, I guess the planning board or the zoning board, it's been switched around to different boards so much now it's hard to keep track. Got that document, and we kept asking, what's happening with the document? What's happening with the document? 2 months later, we finally get a response from someone on, was it the zoning board or the planning board?
Zoning
The
revision.
zoning board,
No, zoning revision committee.
revision committee, excuse me, that told us that they were gonna use one paragraph out of a 30-page document, that $8,500 was paid for that document. $8,500 was donated by someone in our town who's concerned about this. And we were told, like getting slapped in the face basically, well, we're doing our own thing, we know more than you do, we're gonna use one paragraph from that. I'm like, what? Hello? This guy's an expert, countrywide, we paid him $8,500, we had a template that works, and we're being told by this committee, which Steve had back and forth emails with them, giving them all kinds of information, sharing, and we're being told, sorry, Steve, we're only gonna use one paragraph, bye-bye, and that was the end of that. This guy knows what he's doing, he's an expert. Have any of you looked at his website? He's had major successes. We've tried to get him involved to help you with what you need to do. We've tried giving you information to help you to try and stop this issue. We've done everything in our power. We've put all our time and energy. So have dozens of other people. It's not just Steve and I and Weston and a few other people. There's a lot of people behind this. There's one woman in town that has 15 different businesses in town behind her 100% now that don't want 5G. And what we heard on the last planning board meeting, because there were quite a few of us, the same people that spoke, who attended that meeting on Zoom. You're not allowed to speak as the public, that's part of the rules, so that's fine. We wanted to educate ourselves. And we hear people on the planning board, which the guy from Crown Castle, who's the T-Mobile rep, was astounded and made it clear he was quite surprised that the planning board had not even read the application. They hadn't even read the application. It's been 50-something days. The deadline is July 4th, and they haven't even read it. That just speaks volumes. And then we've been told, that I know Bill's saying that it doesn't apply, the shot clock doesn't apply. It's a federal law. And the guy from Town Castle brought up, this is a federal law, you're aware of this, aren't you? If you do not approve our application by July 4th, we will move forward. He said that at the meeting. This isn't like just, it's a federal law. Maybe you did something before in the past that worked, Bill. But this guy is telling us, we plan to move forward. They have a lot of power, they have a lot of money, and once one person gets their big toe in the door that's representing the telecom industry, they will all jump on board. And then we have, you know, I read an article recently where Laura Rickey actually said in the newspaper, oh, the town of Woodstock, they desperately need more cell phone service. So we don't really feel like you're on our side either, even though you say things at these meetings.
It's been a while
We
since I
don't
said
need
it.
more cell phone coverage.
Robbie,
We
2
don't need
minutes
more
for
cell,
that.
it's not up yet.
It
We
is.
don't need,
It's 2 minutes.
okay, we don't need more cell phone coverage. We need to stop 5G.
Thank you.
Yeah, well,
Thank you
Is I agree with what, I think it was Steve that said that, or one of the speakers said, you don't need 5G to get more cell phone coverage. I do believe for safety reasons, it would be good to have more cell coverage around town, but I'm not saying we need 5G around town, but I do believe for safety reasons, I have spoken to people in the outer reaches of Woodstock that do not have cell coverage. I was amazed to learn that even Verizon, there are some places, if you want to get new Verizon service, Verizon sometimes just says no. They don't want to go out to some of these far reaches, and if people don't have cell coverage either, they really do have an issue, I believe, safety. So I continue to believe, and I'm not saying that cell is the way to go. I mean, we need, is it fiber optics, whatever, I do believe that we need to have people in every part of Woodstock be able to communicate through phone.
We come up with
Yeah.
Okay, we're not doing back and forth, thanks,
So-
Laura.
Okay, but I'm not saying I'm for 5G, I've never said I'm for 5G, so,
Okay.
at all, but I do
Any-
think people need connectivity.
Anybody else on the board have any other comments?
No, the only thing I would say about coverage is the statistics from the census are out. I don't know if anybody has to read them or look through them. But in there is an interesting, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it said 87% Woodstock has coverage. So,
What about the 13%?
well, I'm just saying, I just didn't say it. I didn't say it was good or bad. I'm just saying, as a matter of fact.
Internet coverage, not cell phone. Yeah,
Internet,
Yeah.
well, you can do both.
cell phone through the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, Reggie?
No, so just my understanding leaving here is that we're gonna have a special meeting with Andrew Campanelli next
Steve
week.
and I will talk tomorrow morning.
Great.
Lauren?
No, I'm not, nothing.
We were gonna talk about that housing.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yes.
But,
What are we talking about?
I'm sure my phone, so I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
Remember?
No, I didn't bring the written text.
I sent you guys a while back a addendum to the comprehensive plan that the housing committee is recommending.
The comprehensive plan,
Comprehensive.
There was some wording to the comprehensive
the
plan.
comprehensive plan, okay.
You know what, why don't we send it out tomorrow, and then at
After the special
the
meeting.
meeting,
knock it off.
we can talk about it real quick.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, next Tuesday from 6 to 7 on the Village Green, there's a Narcan training that's going to be hosted by Samadi in Kingston and Senator Michelle Hinchy. So that's open to the public.
What kind of training is that?
Narcan training, Narcan.
And what's the time again, Reggie?
6 to 7 next Tuesday on June 29th, right on the green.
Okay, excellent. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Too late, Ken.
Hold on, let's
What's
get-
the status and disposition of the aquifer protection law that was recommended
That,
by Laura?
Laura's got that as well. There were some comments and notes from the planning board that she's gonna go over tomorrow.
I saw some.
Update that. There was some issue about